Welcome back. We are here with Derek from Sowerscapes Lawn Care and Landscaping. Derek, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you doing, Easton?
Doing great, man. It is awesome to chat with you. It's been a little bit since we chatted. So you started your landscaping business back in 2015. How did all this start for you?
Yeah, great question. So I was actually I was sitting with some friends. We used to go out and do outdoor sports. We're like, man, we got to start making some money. We're getting older. We're seventh, eighth grade, and we're something. A lot of my buddies were working at a fast food place, and I'm like, yeah. I was reading all these books and it was sharing about how valuable your time is, and I'm thinking, man, $8 for an hour, that doesn't seem, like you're getting the most value bang for your buck for an hour. So I'm like, how can we make a little bit more money? And there's a kid on my baseball team. He's like, yo, Derek, man, I made $1,000 push mowing lawns over the summer, and when I had $0, $1,000 back then sounded like a lot. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dang, $1,000 push mowing lawns. I'm like, hey, man, I need to get into that. And then I actually had a neighbor ask me, hey, Derek, do you want to mow my lawn? I'm like, this is the opportunity.
Yeah.
So we started, my neighbor and I actually, he'd push mow the front, I'd push mow the back. It was easy entry into the market, using using my parents' push mower. So low expenses, pretty much none. And we'd push mow lawn. It'd take, half an hour with two guys, but by myself, it'd take about an hour. And we'd make, could make $20. I'm like, man, that's, more than double my buddies are making. And so I'm like, I saw some opportunity there. And after that, there was a guy that drove down the street and he had this truck and trailer and he pulled out this big 0-turn mower. I'm like, yo, one of my friends, I'm like, yo, what if we got one of those? And he's like looking at me like, dude, that is never going to happen. Like, bro, we only got like $500. Like, what are you talking about? And I thought it was funny because I was just saying it jokingly. And my dream wasn't necessarily to be a landscaper, but like many of my dreams to, be financially free and live a life that can be flexible and create my own schedule instead of being told what to do by the man. And so I saw the opportunity in landscaping with, like I said, the easy entry. Took that push mower into doing mowing lawns, doing to more landscape work where the margins were better. Kept saving and investing, and we worked our way up. It's been 7 or 8 years of working hard. But now we're up to a couple of crews and a team of 7. So it's been a solid experience, and there's been a lot of learning to it. And even if when we're doing well, profit's good. But even if we weren't making money, just the learning lessons from having my own business has been, not only do books, do well, but there's another thing of learning through experience, and I'm learning through failure that definitely brought a length of growth.
And for the bigger landscaping jobs you guys take on, what is that process like?
Yeah, sure. Great question. So it starts with the client gives a call. I try to make it short and sweet. Usually I'm tied up with a lot of other things. So I just say, hey, here's our request form. I'm going to text it over to you. If you can fill it out, it takes about 30 seconds to a minute to fill it out. And from there, we'll schedule a walk around, do a walk around with the client, confirm what their expectations are, write it down on paper. If we need to, we can send them a digital design of, if it's a larger job. For them to look over to see if it's something that they like, and or we just send the price over because we're clear on expectations, and from there one thing we learned is we like to have everything in writing and contracts. We have the scope of work, we have them sign off on the price, and we usually like to get a % down. This helps lock the people in from running away from the job, and or if they decide to not pay you at the end of the job, as some people can be rotten. Then you're not, it at least covers some of your expenses. So on large jobs, we like to take, it depends how large it is. We might take a third down, and or we might take 50% down. But it's that whole thing of minimizing our risk. From there, we'll execute the work depending on how many days it is. We'll fit in the schedule, and when we'll allocate how many guys and take on rent and equipment if necessary for larger work.
And what is one thing that you wish your customers knew about the landscaping business in general?
Yeah, sure. One thing I wish that they knew is all the expenses that go into making a quality service possible. One of the things being like, a lot of people just look at time and material, but there's a lot of systems in play, a lot of expenses in a good system so that we can provide clear quotes and contracts for the clients that we know, what's expected of us, and they know, we know the expectation back and forth. The systems, obviously, there's a bunch of little things, but something as little as gas for a landscaper, we use a lot of gas for our equipment, and the the trucks and the trucks, not the trailers, but we store the gas in the trailers. But it ends up being tens of thousands of dollars for gas at the end of the year for us, and so that's something we definitely need to factor in all of our costs. You have, if the truck goes down, the maintenance, it's usually a few $100s to fix any parts, tires. It could be $1,500, $2,000 just to change the tires on the truck. So we need to factor all these expenses into our quotes, and it definitely brings it up. But in order to have that good quality, so the other things too is we have the philosophy of not being the cheapest company, but we pay our guys well. So we have a good team that's dependable, does good work, and so we're not the cheapest, but we like to provide what we're saying we're going to provide, a quality service.
And since you've been running your business for over 10 years, which is insane, what's the hardest lesson that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, good question. There's been a lot of hard things, so it's it can be difficult to pick from one or the other. But I'd say that the most difficult thing was the beginning of my business, when I had minimal capital, and when something would break down, I didn't have a backup. Like if I had one mower and I needed to get 20 yards done, and my mower was down, and I'm depending on a zero turn, it's like, well, shoot, what do I do? Like, I have 20 yards. These people are expecting I'm going to get done tomorrow, and my mower's down. Yeah. So that it was very difficult in the beginning when I couldn't just shell out the money to rent a mower and or buy a backup mower. Now it's much easier because we learned, we always need backup equipment because stuff always breaks. So we could, go to the next thing. If this one breaks, just go to the next one. And I couldn't do that in the beginning when the mowers were breaking down. Another thing that's been difficult is finding good help as we grew, is, finding people that are dependable, show up on time, especially in our industry. You don't always get the top of the crop of people to pick from. So once you find someone good, just making sure you take care of your people, and they'll make sure they'll take care of you too. What goes around comes around.
100%. And you started your business at a very young age. Like you mentioned, 7th or 8th grade that's crazy. What was some of the qualities that you had back then that led you to becoming successful?
Yeah, that's a really great question too. I'd say the biggest one is discipline and determination. It's just that stubbornness to want to succeed and achieve my goal. I had a goal to, get a trailer. Then I had a goal to get a mower, and then a second mower, and a third and fourth, and then it just kept going. But setting short-term goals as well as long-term goals, and just persisting to get through it. Even when it got hard, it got really difficult at times. Some really long weeks, 100 hours and stuff like that. But it's just that I'm going to get there with whatever it takes. It's that whatever it takes mentality, I'd say, was one of the biggest things that helped get me through. And having people around you, that whole thing of your network is your net worth. I definitely see the truth in that, because knowing more people, you can get more clients. And then if something breaks down, maybe if I know a handful of mechanics, then it's not an issue. I don't need to know I don't know everything. I'm never will. I'm going to continue to learn until I die. But finding other people around you that have different talents, and letting that be a benefit, add value to other people, and that, they can add value to you in other ways.
What is one thing that you would tell your past self?
Yeah. What would I tell my past self? Honestly, I think I'm happy with the way that things went, rolled out throughout the process. There were some failures, but I think that there was a reasoning for those. I guess maybe it's not so much what would I tell my past self as much as what would I reiterate to my past self. And it's just, continue when you're at your lowest point, just knowing that things will get better, pushing through it. Things get stressful, but find your state of peace, even, if it's just taking a few breaths, taking, 5-10 minutes to recollect yourself, because when your mind's going crazy and you're not focused, you might be wasting time and, not being very productive. And there's, that whole thing of making sure that you're maximizing every minute, every second. And I think that's what sets, the greatest people apart from the others is, think about Jeff Bezos, for example, with Amazon. Think about how much he's getting done in 1 minute or 2 minutes. And that's what sets him apart is, how can you, as a business owner, get more done in a minute or an hour than your competitor, while still doing quality work or providing a quality service. And so I think efficiency is a huge thing.
And you got married over a year ago.
Yeah.
How did you know that she was the one?
Honestly, the beauty attracted me, but the personality kept me. And the biggest thing for me was I structured my life around faith, family, finance. And to add to that, fitness, friends, freedom, and fun. The 7 F's I live by, but faith, family, finance being the biggest ones. And it was actually something I heard from one of my middle school teachers, and he said, make sure you cover those 3 things before you get married. And we both strong in our faith. We knew we wanted to have a family, have kids, and we knew what our roles were going to look like when it came to finances. And so making sure that we got those on track, and we had all those covered, and we had a lot of the same values. And different interests change over time, so I didn't want to gauge off that, like, oh, I like basketball, you like basketball, let's go that, because maybe 2 years from now I don't like basketball anymore. So the biggest thing was just kind of making sure that we're on the same track with a lot of those core values.
And do you think she had a positive impact on your business's success?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest things was I was very good on sales, and I think I was decent with, I'd say I was decent with my guys and people, and keeping up with all the other stuff. But I was really difficult wearing numerous hats when it came to the office. And she's taken on the role of being the office manager, and that's been huge, and it's helped us to really excel greatly. And the other thing too is just having a family and additional expenses. One thing I like to do that motivates me is, as we get more money, is invest it so that we're more so like cash poor, and that provides the motivation to bring it back up, and then invest it, and then bring it back up. And then it's just, it's that thing of, I don't have anything, I want something, and it gives me that incentive to build it back up versus, sitting complacent with, whatever's sitting there, So that's one thing that's, helped me is, get rid of it, put it in investments, and, let the investments continue to work. And as Warren Buffett, if you want to be wealthy, you got to make money while you're sleeping. So
Yes. Yes. And you also mentioned your faith. You're a Christian man. What was it about the Bible that made you say, I want to live my life based on these teachings?
Yeah, great question. I think I'd say the biggest thing ultimately wasn't so much the Bible for me, but how other people live their life. Is I had a desire that, understand that you become, you become who you hang around, whether it be, the 5 people hang around and whatnot. And I saw something in a lot of the Christians at the different churches, and I'm like, man, those people are joyful. They, even when things are tough, they seem to, they seem to always be joyous, even at the lowest times. It's like, what's up with those people? And I came to know that a lot of them, and there's a lot different people even that aren't Christian that are like that, but it seemed like 90% of the people I was running into that had that spark in them is like, they were going to church and they were Christian, reading the Bible. I'm like, I want what they have. So I started doing that myself, diving deep into the Bible. So I'd say it was through people's witness that helped me to grow in my faith deeper. And then, and then reading more and doing my research about, Jesus Christ himself and that. And again, not the Bible, but the Shroud of Turin was something. It was like, it proved that Jesus walked the earth. So Jesus is definitely not, a false story or, some myth. It's a real thing. The question is he God? And it's hard for me to not believe that he isn't, from the stories that people said, and how those different stories, for example, the Gospels, how they matched up, and a lot of these different, sources were all saying the same thing about this man, that he was working miracles. And, if he's not the Son of God, how is he able to, heal people's ears and, do all these crazy things? It's just hard for me to, I just, there's definitely a faith aspect. That's why they call it, faith, is, Christian faith. But I have, faith from the different writers in the Bible. Ultimately, their collective stories all adding up and saying the same thing. And what he did is kind of what helped me to, because I like to reason through things, and it helped me to reason that, that there's, some logic to this, and there's some truth.
I have 2 more questions.
Sure.
If you died today, would you be happy with your life?
Great question. You know what? I'm very hard on myself, and honestly, I like to stop and smell the roses, but I do struggle with that thing of, I'm almost like never satisfied until, being Christian, I believe I'll be satisfied when I'm in heaven. But, I definitely think I've had some failures, and I'm, like I said, I'm hard on myself. I want to continue to make an impact. I'm not satisfied leaving, this earth right now, honestly, because I think that there's opportunity to grow and, provide more value to people. And I'd like to be able to provide that if the Lord wills it. before I go, to be honest with you.
I love that. That's awesome. I have one more question.
Sure.
If you could have dinner with two people,
Mhm.
one person from the past and one person from the present, who would it be and why?
Great question. Definitely from the past, I would definitely want to sit down with Jesus, and just being a Christian myself, I don't know if you've seen. There's different things like Jesus CEO. There's a book. There's a bunch of podcasts, but Jesus, I think he holds all the traits that a good business owner would hold, and um, that's why I want to sit down with him because I have a passion for business, a passion for my faith, and I think he's got all the answers. I don't, but if there's someone that does, I think it's him, and so it's hard for me to not say that one. But if it wasn't Jesus, um, maybe someone like George Washington. I just appreciate like I think he was. I can't say for certain, but I think he was one that said like, burn the boats, like, and he had like an all in mentality, and I respect that greatly. And that's what's carried me along. Like I was saying with the persistence in my business. Someone in the present. Probably Elon Musk, and just because he has a very unique mind in the way he looks at things, um, and yeah, he's a really smart man, and he's very gifted, and I think he's got there's a lot to learn from him. I'm definitely a learner. I like to ask questions, and he's got some crazy ideas with SpaceX and Tesla and some of these things that he's done, and he also has an all-in mentality. Burn the boats kind of did it with Tesla. It seems like he kind of like threw all his money in and he was hoping it worked kind of deal, and
Yeah.
it's like I respect that.
Well, Derek, that's all the questions I have.
Sure.
How can people find you, and what is one thing that you want to leave people with?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find one for the business. It's Sowerscapes, Sowerscapes, on Instagram, and or my personal is Berdysz1, DBERDYSZ1. We also have the company websites, www.sowerscapes.com. Again, Sowerscapes. And one thing I want to leave people with is I challenge you to read the Bible and question. The other thing is question what people are saying. I think that there's a lot of false statements and false things going around these days, and question what people are saying is normal, and do your own research.
I like that. I definitely think questioning is important,
Yeah,
especially in today's times. Well, Derek, thank you so much for coming on, man. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely. Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me on.